So we are here together for an introduction to non-attachment practice. I have spent a lot of time recently teaching about relationship and working with people one-on-one about their body energy and being met. And I find most of what I do nowadays is to meet people and relate to them. And that often takes me away from the classical conversations about a spiritual path and awakening in its more broad sense. And this is my attempt to return or move back towards the personal spiritual path of liberation. And so today, what I'd like to do is to explore some of the primary themes, help us have experiential understanding of these themes, and kind of give a map of development, one that helps make hopefully all the parts of spirituality fit together a little easier, but also helps people know that they're not doing it wrong. So what I'd like to do is start with a meditation, and then we can examine the concept of non-attachment and look at the different aspects of it. That's my big premise, is that non-attachment has aspects, and it's healthy to know. It's important to know the different aspects so that you know, again, that you're not doing it wrong. You know where you are. So we'll start with a meditation. So I begin by closing my eyes and take some deeper breaths. And each time I exhale, I can sink more into the weight of my body. Turn my attention to my nervous system, which is always in motion. Feel my sensations, my emotions, and my thoughts. All of this moves on its own. And the space that it is moving through, the space that my thoughts, feelings, and sensations move through, is my awareness. I shift my focus from content of this movement to the space, to the awake space of being aware. So what is important to recognize is that all of these aspects of ourself coexist. Our bodies are physical objects. Our bodies are a flow of energy. And our bodies are an awake space. We don't have to deny any of these aspects we don't have to identify with any aspect in separation, separate from any of the other aspects. They all coexist. None of them are competing with each other. They all fit perfectly together. The essence of non-attachment is a relaxation of focus. And all of these aspects that we speak of and explore in this meditation, all of these are part of this relaxation of focus. And the history of spiritual practice is a bunch of strategies to bring about this holistic relaxation of focus at all levels. And often spiritual practice focuses on one aspect of consciousness. And today we have the opportunity to integrate many different aspects of consciousness and see how they all bring about this relaxation of focus. So we can do it. I like to use vision as a metaphor. If you have your eyes closed, you don't have to open them. But I like to use vision as a metaphor, as a way to experience non-attachment very quickly. So we can experience the fact that we are seeing. And if you, for example, look at the texture of my sweater has this very neat texture. And just to notice what happens to your eyes when you go to examine the texture of this sweater. To do so, you have to contract your focus, you have to contract your eyes and narrow your focus. This is what contraction is, and it narrows the amount of information that we're taking in. Non-attachment, openness, is an expansion or relaxation of focus. So visually, as you're looking at my sweater, again, I would just invite, there's a couple different things that we're going to explore that we can look at instead of looking at my sweater. This is what I mean by a strategy to relax our focus. Instead of looking at the sweater, we look at something bigger than that. And if we look at this bigger thing, then we will become non-attached. So we can start by noticing, as you look at my sweater, we just notice that you're aware, that you are seeing, that you have the capacity to be aware. And just notice what happens to your eyes and your orientation to my sweater when you shift your focus to the fact that you're aware. What you will notice is that because you're not going to find awareness in the texture of my sweater, you have no need for a contraction of focus. Your eyes relax. Your eyes move to bring awareness and focus. And because awareness is everywhere, your eyes have to open, your eyes have to relax their focus to take in this everywhere. So we're going to go through 3 different strategies like this quickly from an eye perspective, and then we're going to look at how they fit together in consciousness. So first, again, what you can do is you can look at the details of my experience, and then you can shift your focus to awareness. It's like you're not really looking at my sweater anymore. You've become detached from it. Your focus is detached from whatever the objects are that you're viewing. And what's really important to notice is that you can still see my sweater. My sweater hasn't changed at all. Visually, to become not attached doesn't require my sweater to change, to stop being in front of you. It's still here, you can still see it. So this is a relaxation of focus from the objects that we're seeing to the experience of being aware. The second strategy that we can look at, again, is instead of shifting our focus to awareness, again, we notice the nice texture of my sweater. We're more focused on that again. We contract into some detail in our visual experience. And instead of shifting to the emptiness of focus, we're just going to keep seeing more information. So not only can you see my sweater, but you can see my face and my hair, and you can see my background, and you can see the device that you're looking at, and you can see what's in the room around you. The more information you take in, the more your focus is going to expand. To hold all of these things, to hold the fullness of your vision, your focus also has to expand. So in this way, we're not turning away or relaxing to the fact that we're aware. We're just holding more information. We're staying connected to what we see. But we're just taking in more and more of it. In this way, you become not attached to my sweater because you are holding more. You've accomplished a relaxation of focus, not by pendulating to the empty space of awareness, but by holding more of the fullness of your experience. And the third strategy we'll just look at again quickly visually, it's kind of warm up to looking at consciousness, is as you look at my sweater or any other detail of your experience, I just invite you to ask the question, who is it that is seeing this sweater? Who is it that is seeing this lamp? Again, and watch what happens to your eyes and your visual focus. Because you're not going to find yourself in a lamp or a sweater, your focus is going to retract to the place that you are seeing from. You're going to move from what you are seeing to where you are seeing from. Again, who is it that is seeing the sweater, my face, the lamp? You don't need any tension in your eyes because you're not looking for yourself somewhere out in the world. Your eyes can relax because you are behind that. You are not out there. Okay. So before we move on to the realm of consciousness and spiritual practice, just from a visual perspective, what are your impressions of these strategies and the impact that they have on your sight and your experience of a relaxation, a visual focus? Do either of you want to share about that?
I think just to say that I'm following along and experiencing what you're referring to, is all. Again, with dilated eyes, I can't really focus on much of anything. It's just I'm having a whole different flavor of the experience.
All right.
But yeah, definitely tracking.
Great. And Kristen, anything you want to say as well?
Um, yes, I think it's you went through the whole thing very quickly, and but interestingly, yeah, kind of the same experience yeah, kicked in again and again. So yeah.
Great. I did go through it quickly because we're going to shift from our eyeball as being the focusing agent to our body being the focusing agent. So what we've accomplished with our vision in our eye, now we want to transfer holistically to our body and mind, to our whole felt sense, as a better word. Transfer it from the eyeball to the felt sense. So the question is, how do we get our felt sense to relax? So again, we'll go through these three strategies again more holistically. So again, I can feel, you can do this with your eyes open or closed. I can feel my body. My body has weight. My body has a fluid experience of sensations and emotions and ever-changing thoughts. Awareness-based teachings are the intentional shifting of focus from our thoughts, feelings, and sensations and what we see and hear to the experience of being aware. So the reason that I can feel my body is because there's awareness. If you weren't aware, you wouldn't know that you had a body. So this practice is to shift our focus from what we are aware of to the fact that we're aware. And awareness doesn't have any weight. It doesn't have an emotive quality. It doesn't get angry. It's not judgmental like thought. It's just an awake space. So every time that we shift our focus to awareness, we become not attached to our thoughts, feelings, and sensations. And what does that mean? It means that we are relating to our thoughts, feelings, and sensations from an open focus. We still have thoughts, we still have feelings, we still have sensations. The only thing that has changed is that now we are also relating to awareness and our focus is open. So it's important to point out that not attachment doesn't mean that we have a change in what we are aware of. It does not depend, right now, it does not depend on our thoughts, feelings, or sensations changing. That's kind of the point of non-attachment, is that we stop being so attached and concerned about the content of what we're aware of. So awareness-based practice is like stretching. It's like doing physical stretching practices, like doing yoga. I learn to just keep actively, intentionally shifting my focus from my body and my mind to the experience of being aware. And the reason that this practice works for people is for two reasons. One, because they want to do this, because intrinsically there is a remembering and a consistent application of the shifting in focus, but also because in each of our natural constitutions, there are different aspects of consciousness which are available to us. Awareness-based practices work because they make sense to you. So there are people who, when I offer them awareness-based practices, it does not make so much sense. It is not so obvious and natural. And that's not at all an impediment to non-attachment. It just means that this particular facet is not available to you or obvious to you right now. And there are some teachers and teachings that only offer awareness-based practices and ask all people to come through this pathway, but it's not necessary. This is just one option. But there are people, many, many people, for whom when you say the word awareness, there is an open space. And with some ease, these people can return over and over again to the experience of being aware. And this is a wedge into a deep relaxation. So every time you shift your focus towards awareness, you are in the experience of being aware, you are relaxed. Now, over time, as you do this, what you are inviting to have this relaxation of focus, you are inviting the body and mind to soften. The stretching of focus by shifting to awareness is progressively going to invite the body to relax. Any place where you hold tension is going to show up because you are constantly relaxing into it. Every time I shift my focus to awareness, I'm going to pull my body energy with it. I'm going to apply this relaxation is begin to apply not just to my sort of focus, it's going to apply to the whole of my body, because that's what my focus is made out of. My focus is made out of my felt sense. So awareness-based practice means that I'm leading with this intentional shifting of focus, and I'm inducing the rest of my body to follow along. So what this often means is that I'm going to continually emphasize the experience of shifting my focus to awareness, and I'm going to put less emphasis on what I'm aware of. This is a strategy. This strategy says the most important thing is that we recognize the space of awareness, because if we do this, everything else is going to follow. And again, for some people, for many people, this is a very powerful orientation. So we just take a moment again. You can hear my voice. You can feel my body. We shift our focus. The reason that we can hear my voice and you can feel your breath is because we're aware. Awareness is not a voice. Awareness is not a breath. It's not wondering if we understand this. It's just awake space. And every time we do this, we become more relaxed than our body and mind is. Awareness will always be more relaxed than us. And as a result, this being more relaxed than our body will continually put pressure on any tension that we hold. It will erode the habit and the lifetime of accumulated tension because we are holding it openly and putting a pressure on it. So just to the two of you, I invite, how does this sound and feel to you? Does it feel natural for you to shift your focus to awareness? Does it make sense? What's your experience when you follow along?
Well, first of all, that was a lot. I can tell I'm getting very tired. But yeah, I had a hard day today. Okay, sorry. You know, during well, while listening to you, there were moments when I thought I feel what you're saying, or no, I actually thought that when I listen to you and you are talking about awareness, it's easier for me to be aware or to make this switch. Yeah, and it's still like in everyday life, I very often get occupied with whatever, and then there's like a barrier. So it makes sense and I'm still curious. Well, what I heard is I'm still curious, how can I transfer what I've heard into my everyday life? And I've heard you saying practice, exercise.
Yes, that is part of it. So I can't help myself. Let's switch strategies a little bit. And that's one strategy. Again, if you lead with a shift in focus to awareness, the body will follow. That's the idea. So that's not our only strategy. Our other strategy is to relate to what we are aware of. And just because I hear what you say, we're just going to shift strategies for a minute. And I'm just going to hear you say that you feel tired.
Mhm.
So instead of trying to get to awareness and trying to move away from this tiredness for a moment, let's just see what happens if we really just feel tired for a moment. You and I heard you say that you're feeling tired. We notice what happens when we just let this happen. We give our focus to the tiredness.
It has happened already. And I remember from your YouTube meditation that this, I've forgotten how you called it, but it was like adding on, like it was the second strategy you described before by vision. This comes natural to me.
So as we feel
This,
tired,
yeah, it's like sitting inside of it.
right. So as we sit inside of it, what I notice is a relaxation of focus. Do you notice that too?
Yes. I would probably, choose different words for it, but from what I took from, how you explain this phenomenon, the thing.
Got it.
Yeah. Then it's, yeah, something's relaxing.
Wonderful. So we didn't shift our focus to awareness, and yet we've accomplished a relaxation of focus. We are more not attached, even though we didn't shift our focus to awareness. So we'll go back to the strategy more fully in a minute, but what I want to point out, one of the limitations of awareness-based practice is often we will feel tightness in our body and we'll want to get away from it by going to awareness. I will feel tired, I will feel angry, and if my practice is simply to move away to this experience of being aware, when I feel tight, when I have tiredness, especially when I'm new at this practice or when the other aspects of practice are not so developed in me, this will mean that I'm kind of fighting my experience in trying to get to this awake space. And as we see, we actually don't have to do that. We just acknowledge that we're tired and the relaxation happens on its own.
Yes.
And now that we're more relaxed, now that we've acknowledged that we're tired, now we can try again and say, I mean, the only reason that we can feel tired in the first place is because we're aware. If we weren't aware, we wouldn't know that we're tired.
It's easier now.
Right. So we'll come back to this phenomenon where you say it's easier now. This is a very important point that I want to reference in a little bit. But I want to offer Jana just some opportunity just to comment on what you've been experiencing and what I've suggested about awareness as a consistent practice of shifting focus.
Yeah, so this is, familiar territory for me. Um, and again, I'm, easily tracking and following along with what you're saying. I did you, it was, but early on, you said something about relaxing focus in I don't know if you use the body and the mind, I'm not sure, but um, so quite often when I relax focus, I go back to, feels like going back, what is it that's aware? I'm just going to go to the context instead of the content. Feels as though it's behind me, and it's kind of back around, sort of in this area somewhere. And so I've been playing with just bringing that down a bit. And what if more of my body, more of my that physical aspect of me is relaxing into the context. How words are words, right? But yeah, so that's just something that I'm enjoying right now.
Yeah, beautiful.
It has a different flavor. It's less I'm doing something and more I'm sinking more of me.
And I would suggest that your ease in doing this is in part because awareness-based practices have worked for you.
That's right.
That this relaxation of focus has happened, and it's not very hard for you to realize the space of awareness. You are, as they would say, grounded in it. It's pretty available. It's pretty consistently within your range of focus. And this is part of the goal of awareness-based practice, is to get people to a place where awareness is not hard to find, where you can relax about trying to get it.
Yeah.
Because it's just there. How could you not be aware? So this relaxation happens over time. You can relax about this pendulation, doesn't become so forceful or so, I'm not fighting everything else to get there. It's just there. Which means, as I hear you saying, is that now you can relax into more of your experience. You can turn more of your attention to your body. You can be grounded in awareness and more grounded in your body, which is an relaxation of focus. You are able to hold even more now.
Right.
Often when people start awareness-based practices, there's this duality. There's, I want to be in awareness, and then there's the body. I'm awareness. I'm not the body. But as you become successful and grounded in awareness, it's not such a division anymore. You expand through that division and are open to, willing to take on more of life, because you want to get bigger, because it's natural to expand, because it's natural to graduate beyond this seeking the spacious quality into seeking all of the aspects of consciousness, all of the aspects of life. So just to point out that in both cases, awareness-based practices are not separated from the other things that we're doing. We may, for a period of time, have an intense focus or drive to be grounded in awareness. But if that works, then we're going to end up being curious about and expanding into our body. And if we find momentary challenges for that, then we are relating to the content of the body as a way to relax anyways. So we can start to see that awareness is not the one dominant facet of reality. It's part of a spectrum. And for some people, this is the dominant facet that helps wedge them into a more open consciousness. But it's not separate from all the other facets. It's not special in some way. So in both cases, we notice is that we have this capacity to relate to the content of our body and find relaxation anyways. We actually don't need, there's actually no need to be in awareness to relax, to be not attached. In both cases, I've heard you say that you don't need to get to awareness so you can have relaxation, because there's other ways. So we just take a moment to expand our experience of this to some of the other ways. Again, if I'm aware of my, for a moment, my vision, the fact that I'm seeing, but I'm also aware of my hearing, my thinking, my emotions, my sensations and the weight of my body. Each time we add more information, we become less attached to what we're aware of. So we take some time just to integrate all of these facets of ourself into one experience, which means I relax and I practice holding all of these channels of information, from my hearing and seeing to my body. I let them all exist and move in one place. So again, just I pause. How is it for you to hold the fullness of your experience? When I suggest that you can relax and hold the fullness of your experience, what do you notice?
I don't have the English words for it, but I'm not capable of holding all the facets or aspects in one. But when I follow follow you, then relaxation comes again and again and again. But it's, yeah, and it feels right. So
It's beautiful to hear you speak. And we just say, instead of trying to hold all these aspects, we just feel one right now. You see, it feels right. So what happens when we just take a moment to feel in our body and in our thinking what feels right?
well, this feels like a beautiful place to be, because there it's quiet and wide and calm, and it's the only place to be.
And if we stay here, what we will notice is that our thoughts keep moving, our feelings keep moving, our sensations keep moving, and our focus is going to keep moving. As much as we want to stay here, life will keep happening. So as we sit in this beautiful place, I just invite that we let life keep happening and we go wherever we go next. Instead of trying to stay here or even go to awareness, we just let life keep happening. Go with the flow. because it is fluid. So rather than trying to relax and hold everything, what we want to do in this practice is just go from one thing to the next. And the only specialty, the only difference between normal life is we're going to slow down and give each facet enough time so that it can become integrated into this whole experience. So as this feeling is right, we just give it the space it needs before we move on to the next thing. And if we give it the space that it needs, then there will be no leftover energy, which we need a contraction for. So as we just rest here, we just wait for the next thing to happen. And when it comes up, you can just share what that is.
For me, it's, not really moving from one thing to the other. It's rather holding a certain quality or a certain presence, and then just encounter, the things which appear.
Right. We'll just keep encountering the things that appear. I love that language. So my favorite image for this is like a sewing needle. And I imagine that our focus in this encountering is like a sewing needle that is going to stitch all of the facets of our experience into one cloth. So each thing that we encounter, as long as there's enough time and space, it's going to be integrated into this presence. So the movement of our focus, this encountering that you describe, this is like a natural process of integration, of making whole, that's going to happen on its own. We just sit here and we're present, and the next thing is going to rise, and the next thing is going to rise. In this way, life is actually trying to have us hold more, and life is trying to get us to a state of non-attachment. It's doing it not by moving away from content, but by moving towards content, one piece after another. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Again, for me, the only thing that is really necessary for us to do is just not leave any energy incomplete in this process that we'd have to contract around and hold. So as long as we give this process enough time and space, and there's no leftover, we can allow the natural flow of life to just keep bringing more and more into this state of presence that you describe. Like the energy in my presence is accumulating because life just keeps bringing me one thing after another, and I get more and more full.
Then comes the question again, like, everyday life is fast, and you need to make decisions and all that. Well, during my work, I think that's the place I imagine where I can come close to that. But even there, this question, comes up for me again and again. Like, how can you do that?
I will speak to that in a little bit. But for now, what I would just like to speak is that when we give enough time and enough space, when we slow down, when life isn't so fast, it happens on its own. You speak to it happening on its own. I don't even have to tell you to do this. And your answer is there's this presence, and one thing after another is met. We encounter one thing after another. I will get to your question. But for now, what I want to do is contrast these two strategies of shifting our focus to awareness and integrating, moving naturally between the two pieces of content. Right now, at the beginning, often for people, these will seem like two different things. In one strategy, I'm trying to go to the same thing over and over again. And I'm trying to get to awareness, and I'm kind of turning my focus away from what I'm aware of. There's an intention behind this, or at least a remembering, and I'm seeking a spacious quality over and over again. But in the other practice, I'm not trying to move my focus really. I'm not trying to get anywhere in particular. What I'm realizing is that whatever life takes me to, if I give it enough time and space, I will be more relaxed. I don't need to get anywhere. Whatever comes up is going to be the next stitch in the fabric of my experience. Rather than trying to get to one particular experience, like the awake space of awareness, I realized that all experiences help this accumulation of energy. All experiences create more fullness and ultimately create a relaxation of consciousness. And so, again, where awareness practices will often have us be fighting content, trying to move away from content, integration-based practices say, everything that we experience, every thought, feeling, and sensation is the right thought, feeling, or sensation to bring me more non-attachment. So, Jana, I just want to pause just to see if you have any reflections on this.
Um, let's see if I can say this. My truth for these two is that they really are one. For either to work, they have to be doing both. All of it is happening. So as you were talking us through this one, you know, adding this and adding this and adding this, it was yeah, sorry, let's see what I can say here. If I do awareness practices where I'm trying to get to awareness, or you said fighting, or like canceling out the content or any of that, it's not working for me. That's just not it. And the same thing if I'm like trying to go deeply into a thing, that's not it either. So for me, it's something, it's a place where both happen kind of automatically, or if that can make some sense to you.
Again, that's a sign
And I
of,
noticed, you know, it's almost like it's like a scent of a thing, and an openness, and so that the movement can be seen, so that I can even know what to slow down to.
again, yeah, I see that as a sign of maturity and development, that these two facets of reality are seen as one. And if we just take a moment just to feel that whether if there's space, that's great. If there's movement, that's great. It all works together. Just how does it feel to know that, to recognize that?
um, it all just feels like home. I don't know.
And you comment on this, but it
Yeah.
sounds like the strategizing itself is relaxing.
Yeah, that's what's I have. Yeah.
Because if this works and this works, and they're both good and they're working together, what need do I have for trying to get somewhere in particular? It's all working.
Such an interesting place to feel between like what is knowing something, right? Is it a cognition? Is it a felt sense? Is it a, like to make sense of something? It's more just like being blind and feeling my way through and recognizing when it feels like there's openness. But again, the openness is the movement. Somehow, I don't. But the feel and the quality changes constantly too. So, day to day or moment to moment.
So what does that leave you with?
Gratitude. Just bowing down and gratitude. that's what it leaves me with.
This, what you're saying kind of brings me to the third strategy, which for now we're going to look at, which is self-inquiry. Somewhere in all of these conversations is the question of identity. You use the word home. What am I? Again, we did this visually, but if we just take a moment, we feel our bodies, thoughts, there's all this movement, we're aware. What is it that's having this experience? What am I in all this? And before you answer the question, my first question is, what happens to you when you ask the question? When you are in a state of inquiry, of being curious as to what you are, what feels like you, what happens to you?
It feels like, to me, it feels like coming to a halt or to taking a break, getting quiet.
Mm.
And then it is quiet. I like this question. And then it's curiously looking around. And at the same time, it's being open for movement and everything. And in a way, the feeling of standing still, all at the same time.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful to listen to that description.
Mhm.
And in my language, I would call that relaxation,
Mhm.
being still, sort of a cessation of some effort in its place, curiosity, aliveness, presence. So when we stay in a state of inquiry, in a state of curiosity, we are relaxed. And Jenna, same to you. If we ask the question, who is it that is having this experience?
Kristen, I just really loved your description there. That's kind of what I was just trying to describe before, and it hasn't changed now with this other inquiry.
Yeah. So what I would point out is that all three of these elements that we've explored are coexisting in this moment. There is awareness. There is a constant changing and moving landscape of emotions, of thoughts, of feelings, of memories, desires, and there is an open curiosity. These three strategies are actually all present in consciousness all the time. And if you are successful, if you have any success in one of these practices or domains, they're going to lead you to this place where all of them coexist. Being in awareness is not going to get rid of your feelings and your sensations and your memories. Inquiring into the nature of yourself is not going to get rid of your thoughts, feelings, or sensations either. And perhaps more importantly, feeling your feelings, thoughts, and sensations is not going to stop you from relaxing into the state of awareness and being curious. You can't do it wrong, really.
Mhm.
This is in a way saying life is perfect.
Absolutely. And to your question, which is a really important question, that's why we're here. How do we know this more often? What are the conditions? What does practice look like given this? What do we do if this is what we want to, if this is the place that we want to live in? As always, I like to call this a next level problem. By the time we have this problem of wanting to stay here, we have realized something that is precious.
Mhm.
So the first thing is for me that I really acknowledge how much I want or enjoy or am fascinated by or need this, whatever my version of this is.
Mhm.
It's really healthy to want it. And that wanting is not a barrier to this experience. There is no barrier to this experience. If I give enough space to my wanting, if I can relax into my wanting, like any other thought, feeling, or sensation, it becomes more integrated into the whole of me. I don't have to stop wanting so that I can be in awareness, or stop wanting so that I can be in some other state of consciousness. I just I give the wanting and the desire and the seeking enough time and space. I really let it live and move. So just for all of you, both of you now, how would you describe your motivation to be here? What does it feel like when I talk about wanting to be here? I want or need this, or I'm fascinated by it, or you've signed up for this group, you're sitting in this space now where you are more open. Of what is your motivation to be in this state or way? How would you describe that?
Please, can I say something different than that first?
Yeah.
What's coming to me, see if I can say this. As I very much agree with what you were saying. It's the way forth through for me. And it strikes me as you were talking about it, it was much like our whole the whole of our discussion, the various ways to be with this calling, this internal calling. You know, it's we can go into the middle of it and sit with it and let it surround us, not hold it too tightly, give it space, and yet deeply connect with it. You know, versus another way that my culture would have me do things, you know, like, oh, I should be doing this, or oh, I need to do that, or that's there's just so much contraction around that. And it takes me away from the actually being with that call. I tend to call it a calling rather than a wanting, but it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So to me, what's been helpful, what I have been noticing recently, again, that's part of this letting this sink down a little bit more into my heart. That there is and to let myself really, yeah, I really do want this. See, it's hard for you to think about wanting that. I'm so my German ancestry. There's a lot of conflict around wanting. um, so yeah, so it's to do what I guess what I started out saying, sinking in, acknowledging, being with, listening, keeping it soft and tender, and yet real. It really is here. Like I could go really fast and go right by it. Oh, now I need to do this. Now I need to do that. Now I need to do this. But this is still here, right? So that's my response.
Yeah.
Your turn, Kristen.
Yeah, thanks. Can you ask a question again?
Well, first I will, but I just speak to what you were saying, Jenna, which is that softening that you're describing. It's important for us to acknowledge that ease in our approach is progressive too. So when we are contracted, we are going to apply contracted strategies.
Mhm.
It's inevitable that we're going to start there. So it's
Right.
really okay that when
That's
people
right.
start, they start by seeking, and we would just invite them to soften into that. And as they do, progressively, more and more they're going to arrive at, it's here. I'm soft in relationship to it. I access it by being relaxed. The obviousness of that pathway just gets clearer and clearer. I don't need force to achieve what I want in life or to answer the call. That progressively becomes easier because the stretching process has worked. So in yoga, stretching leads to flexibility. In spiritual practice, relaxation leads to the maturity that you're describing. And the more that we are successful, the more we kind of have like a map, like, oh, I'm just going to keep softening in this way, I guess. I'm just going to keep relaxing into this by being relaxed and just allowing and meeting. I can kind of wrap my head around that as a path. Like, oh, that's a way that I just mature into. And I can see how that gives a direction to my life without that having to be a forceful or contracted direction, not a one-pointed seeking, but a just opening into. I'm just going to keep opening into this, and I just let that produce the more and more non-attached and mature and developed version of me.
Yeah, yes. And there still is that uh, intention to give voice to the calling. Because if I just relax and I just probably wouldn't happen. So there's a little dance going on there.
Absolutely. And as you're finding out in every other aspect of your practice, those two things don't have to be in conflict with each other.
Right.
This
right.
and this somehow over time just feel more and more okay and like one thing, and like it's really okay to take this really seriously and really care at the same time that we are soft and okay with things the way they are. And that also, that process is also progressive and natural and supported by all the work that we do, and just ripens and ripens and ripens. I used to listen to J. Krishnamurti, and he would say two things back to back. He would say he cried about what was happening in the world, and then he would say he doesn't care what happens. I would say, how can those two things be true for you? How can you cry about like deforestation, but also in the same, from the same frequency say, it doesn't matter what happens? And this is the integration of life. This is the relaxation of life, where being a human being and being consciousness stop being two separate things. So it's really okay to be angry or to want or to take things seriously. And that as the flexibility opens up, that does not detract from non-attachment at all.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's a sign of our non-attachment. We're not attached to our humanity, again, which means we let it be there. We don't see it as a barrier. My care and my feelings, my whatever they are, they're not a barrier because I've relaxed around them. They still get to be there.
Yeah, one of the phrases that's coming to me as you talk is the meaning of this or the meaning of that greatly loosens. And it's more of that curiosity of being with.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you asked me to re-ask the question. I guess I would just speak just motivation. So as we sit here, we're in some state of relaxation. We are experiencing non-attachment, exploring non-attachment. How is it for you? Is it something that you want? Is it something that are you satisfied? Are you driving? Are you, how do you, what's your motivation from here? What does motivation feel like for you when you're relaxed and we speak about relaxation?
I love to be here. Yeah, that's a perfect place to be. Yeah, it's like yeah, taking a bath like in a beautiful place. And yeah, I don't want to be somewhere else. And I had different thoughts earlier, but I guess, well, it's it makes me creative. It makes me happy. Um, it feels easy, and it also feels good. I think this is a little bit the driving energy behind. I want to bring this quality, which I experience here, like into like yeah all of my life, into all of the situations in my life.
Yeah, you love to be here. Yeah. Let me just take a moment to feel that. So because this loving to be here is really an expression, and for me, it's an expression of this whole range of experiences in each of us, how this love expresses itself may be different, which means for some people, this love means that I just meditate a lot. The love gets me to sit by myself in silence for hours and hours and hours. And I just sit there and I sit there. And that's how my love affair is expressing itself right now. For other people, their love affair is I come to these groups, I come to places, I come to relationship, I come to spaces where we can feel together. That's where I'm called to go. For other people, it's I walk in nature, I listen to music, I dance, so part of the question of how do we stay here? What do I do? Is really what does this love want to do? If we just let I love to be here start to organize our calendar, what would it do? Since there's not just one facet or one way to get here, we listen to the love. What would it have us do?
I still want to add that I feel welcome, and I think that's the aspect which makes it easy for me to be. And I think, well, actually, that seems to be the purpose of life just now, to take part in this meeting and to show up, to say things, to be real and true, and that's what yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to participate in life, and I want to manifest. Well, that's yeah.
That's beautiful. And so you've joined a group that we have, the Global Body Group, which is really designed around this instinct or this drive to participate when we relate to the world, when we relate to our relationship to the world, we are continually holding a bigger and bigger experience. So we let this engagement be part of our non-attachment practice. So again, participation is a real pathway to non-attachment. And rather than saying you need to sit in meditation by yourself and keep pendulating to awareness, we create cultural context that allows you to do what you're really called to do, what you really love. And that's my goal, that there is a place to indulge, to support what it is that really feels true for you and feels like the meaning of your life.
You know, participation becomes more and more for me the only way. Because retreating from life and you know, staying with myself, maybe I can develop certain abilities, well, skills, but it's still, at least in my opinion, when you come together with people, then it's again another pair of shoes again, and you kind of, you don't start from scratch, but yeah, it's, you can't take from your you know, when you are just by yourself from this practice, you can't take all your experience one-to-one into the world, into interactions. And that's why I think it's much more useful, or there's much more sense in yeah, participating and yeah, relational practice.
You're selling me on your path. Sounds great. Sold. And it's really beautiful that when we sit here and offer this sort of menu of possibilities that all fit together, that you can recognize what really feels true for you. And what I envision long term for a group like this is to say to the multiplicity of the ways people find their truth, to say yes to all of them, to say, if that's what feels true for you, yes, and we hold you in that's something that we support, and we invite that will take you to all the other facets that we're speaking about. That this process of non-attachment can be deeply personal, unique to you. Because someone in the next moment might say, wow, every time I shift my focus to awareness, there it is. I just want to quit my job and just sit around the house all day. And that's what really feels true for me. And in the same breath, we could say, that's wonderful. Good for you. Fill your boots. But fortunately for you and I, this sense of participation is something that we are really looking at creating together, because it's resonant for all of us that are in the community here. And again, we'll see you at the group on Friday when we talk about the global body. The last thing that I would say is that the more that this motivation that you have is seen by you and seen by others, reflected, related to, and shared, the stronger it gets. It's something that can be nurtured. This motivation can be nurtured until it dominates your life, until it becomes the driving force. And what I think most people, why spiritual teachers and communities are so helpful, in part, is to nurture this motivation, is to really go to a place where everyone says, yes, this is what we support together. Because in the world, there's all kinds of other motivations, or at least it seems like there's all kinds of other motivations, and often this motivation that you describe doesn't get nurtured so easily. So we participate in community and with teachers as a way of building that up for ourselves and for others. Jenna, is there anything that you want to share?
I don't think so. I just enjoyed our time together. Yeah.
So just in conclusion, I don't feel any drive to tell you where this goes or what's possible along the way. We just leave it for now. But I just state my intention again of creating a place where people can find a non-attachment practice that really works for them. I can't tell you how many people I've met that have gotten stuck by being convinced to do things that aren't natural for them. And that there is one way, or that these other elements of spiritual practice or life, that's not it in some way. That's not the path. And it's not true. Everyone's life and everything, everyone has a path. Everyone has a non-attachment path. And in a really healthy and loving, integral community, everyone would have a space where they could find what's true for them rather than having to do it right. And in spiritual seeking, I think that's part of our maturity. Again, as a culture, that we grow and become more open to the multitude of ways. And I would love to support that and have groups that demonstrate how broad, how open it can be, how this relaxation of focus and the realization of higher levels of perception, how all of those can be accomplished just by being yourself rather than adhering to any strategy in a more fixed position. You do things because you love them, and you allow that love or calling to take you. And when for that to be demonstrated, to be as a multiplicity, for that to be demonstrated in so many ways is something that I really want to give to my culture.
Beautiful.
So just to give you some time, if either of you want to say anything before we go.
Thank you to both of you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. And I'm glad you added on the piece that you just did. You know, just to see this, you call it relaxation, and I'm curious about that. That's just not a term I would have used, but I'm very open to that. But to see it as a natural process, you know, we don't like look at a budding flower and go, how does it know how to bud? You know, flowers bud, and humans, we have these capacities and these callings and these so I really appreciate you supporting folks um, softening and deepening into their own way.
Absolutely. And it's as true for relationship and career and the personal human identity as it is a path
Yeah.
to liberation.
Right,
It's the same unique, it's just equally unique.
right.
Oh yeah, the intention would be to create a space where awakening is not I almost want to say competitive, like it doesn't have that quality.
Another
It's
thing.
just you're on your way there already. How do we support you?
Yeah. Yeah. Sweet. Thanks. And thank you, Kristen.
So I'll
you.
send out the recording if either of you want to listen to it. And I may offer a group around this either sometime in the near term or in the longer term. I think moving forward, I'll probably offer an introductory level course around this for people who've never experienced any of these practices. That would be my goal. And then long term for people who are more experienced, I'm not sure what I would offer them, but just to know that all this spiritual stuff is in my intention to support.
And so Blaze, the global body group is moving forward.
Yeah, it's on it. We had the first one on Friday and a couple days ago. And similarly, I'm discovering a curriculum as we
And
go.
how many folks are there?
Laura, Galen, and Kristen.
Great. Sweet group.
Yeah, so I have so many, there's so much content that could be like every human category can be explored there. So I'm trying to figure out how to make that progressive exploration, but yeah, it's lots of room to grow there. So for now, I appreciate your time and your love and answering the call. We'll see you all in the future.
Thank you.
Bye.